Okay, we'll go over some bolting principles here. Is Maclean all set up? So we're gonna move the boom around with the pendant here. Push the screen into place with the stinger. Lets you, the stinger and the machine really lets you mold it around like the crevices there, so you get a nice tight laying screen. It's an old dinosaur of a machine here creaking away. Still drills faster than the stoper. So I like to put my pendant on whatever side I'm drilling on. That way when I install the bolt and resin with my hands, the pendant is right there to grab without taking too many steps. So start drilling nice and slow. Get through the initial layer of the rock there into something solid before you really lay on the hammer. It's easier on the ground. And keep busy while you're drilling, so you know if everything's good, you start making up your rebar. You know, you get your resin ready, everything ready to install. So as soon as the drill is done drilling, you do your install and keep the machine always moving. So you got your one fast, two slow. Fast has got the red stripe, no stripes on the slow gray tubes. Oh, looks like I'm mudding up there. So a lot of times you can hear the sound of the ground whether you're mudding up or not, and you can see it at your drill coupling. If there's water spraying out everywhere and not coming out of the hole, you know you're starting to mud up. And then you can just lay off the feed and let it hammer and rotate, and usually it'll clear itself out. So ideally you don't want to rip or tear your screen up. Rotate there and slide your deck out. Got my plastic loading stick there. My resin is already ready. It's nice if you can, if the resin is in good enough condition where you can get two at once. It saves a little bit of time. You gotta put 3 up individually. It's 3 strokes, you know, you put 50 bolts, it's 150 strokes plus bolts or whatever, so it's workplace ergonomics. See, I got my remote nice and close there. I don't have to go searching around the deck for it. It's always within arm's reach. A lot of people, some people like to put their screen up on their boom, drill their hole, then install the rebar. I like to drill my hole. I know where the bolt is going to go and I know where the screen's going to go. So I drill the hole. It's less obstructions in the way to put your resin in, and then you can just put your screen up, have it where you want to place it, and then install your bolt. On the Maclean, usually it's easier to install the center bolt first, but depending on your location and the ground, sometimes you might just have no choice but to put one in the corner of the screen. So you want to, depending on what type of resin you're using, it'll say on the box, but it'll have revolutions per minute, how long you're supposed to spin it to mix it and heat it up for the resin to set. It's good, you know, if you're waiting around resin to tighten, maybe you can get your next bolt ready, your next resin ready. Try and always be one step ahead of the machine, so there's never human delay. You're always waiting on the machine, and it's a better opportunity to always keep the drill steel turning, and that's how you be efficient. So after you get your first bolt installed in your screen, you're pretty much free to move it around with your stinger and your drill steel and get it kind of really exactly how you want it, and really form it to the rock. So, you know, just a combination between a boom crowd, which should be up and down, boom up and down, and swinging back and forth. You can really pretty much put the screen anywhere you want it. And then we just still follow a 1.2 by 1.2 pattern, so it works out to be 6 bolts every screen. You know, 3 per side, 1 in each corner, 1 in the middle. It's easy to see how bolts are supposed to be laying. You can always just look at where they are supposed to be in the screen, and they usually line up pretty good. Drill crown up. I like to poke my drill steel through the screen first and make sure it's not going to hit any, and then that way you don't get any bird nests wrapped around your screen, the screen all ripped up and mangled. So I already got my resin and rebar already, so you know, I have an opportunity to do other things like clean up the deck, fill up rock drill oil, you know, wash down, whatever. Little angle change here. If your drill steel catches on the screen, you know, it's just give it a little spin or a little hammer, and usually it'll just pop off. It's not too out of whack. So we'll go ahead, same thing as before. 1 fast, 2 slow. Plastic loading stick. Resin where I can grab it. As few strokes as possible, make it easy. Oh, maybe it was a little bit more difficult, that one. 1 fast. Nice good tamp, you hear it pop in the hole there. Having full resin encasing the entire hole and encasing the entire rebar is ideal. Gives the largest amount of anchor and prevents oxidation oxidization of the rebar. I hold the plate above my hand so I can see the rebar going into the dolly, and put the dolly or the rebar into the hole first, bring the dolly to the rebar, and then drop it in, and then you can remove your hand and not have to do any mechanical movements with your hand near the operating of the machine. So getting another rebar resin ready, always being one step ahead of the machine. So you can hear the screen really tightening up there on the bolt. It's good to always rotate back as soon as you're done your rebar, and then that way you're not in the wrong position when you go to drill your next hole. So we're going to work on getting a rebar in the screen up in this crevasse here. It's pretty bad ground in here. So all the plates that are painted yellow, those are 10-foot bolts. And the type of ground in here, I'm just working on keeping a tight screen pattern, so it prevents the rock from breaking away, and the more you can prevent it from moving, the more secure it is. So I'm just looking back, make sure my deck doesn't plow into the wall, because I'm lifting so high up into this like a cathedral type shape that the size of the deck is just fitting up into here. So I got to be careful that my wings and all my different external parts aren't gonna get caught into the wall as I slide back and forth with the deck and lift up and down with the scissors. So put the bolt on the left side. Now I got my pendant on the left side. So this is a good example. A lot of people joke about drilling gently, but listen. So when I started drilling that hole, you can actually hear how drumming the rock and the ground is around you. The drumming rock is the sound of loose rock. And if you can kind of like tippy-toe through that loose rock and not disturb an area around it and get into solid rock, you have a chance to getting like, you know, a good 6-foot anchor or 6 feet of good rock to anchor into. And if you don't disturb all of that, you know, that loose surface that you're in, it gives you more of an opportunity to support it with tighter screen, more bolts, more anchors, and not letting that that surface material really unravel and create voids or, you know, falling off in slabs. So I do believe in drilling gently. It is a thing, and you can hear it. doing bolts on the left side is that's where you store your resin. Well, you don't have to prep it, so it's one less step. So you can imagine if I already had a screen up, it'd be one more thing to fight with to get the resin through. Ooh, sounds like my machine needs grease. Okay, so I think we'll jump ahead here a bit. So I got this that last screen hung. I'm gonna go for a long bomb bolt here and get it all sucked into this left wall. Okay, so we get this hole drilled. I think I'm going to do a little bit of cheating, gentle drilling here, so I can set the hammer in the rotation of the water, and then I can go up and I can just use drill feed with the remote, and I can watch and see what's happening and feed the drill ahead manually. So I can make sure the ground looks good. So I'm comfortable. Then I can walk over, turn on auto feed, and then I can set my pennant down and do what I need to do. Set up a rebar or whatever. My drill's gone all the way. You know, if you drill the hole short, your rebar won't be tight. It's a little trick here. We use these things called curtain rods, and fold one half back inside out, and then it lets you put either 2 sticks of resin or 4 sticks of powder, and it adds some rigidity to your resin, or stick powder, and it lets you be able to stick it through, you know, long bombs here. Is like I would never be able to get one chunk of resin 3 feet through this screen with my arm. It's not gonna happen. So we make these little tubes and we can load them up with resin and get these long bombs loaded up. Crazy thinking I'm going to put a screen in there, and that might be an argument for putting the screen up before you drill, because technically I would have already had a screen in there. I would have to drill through it, but it would have been there already, and I could have just long bombed my resin, installed my rebar, and it would have been good. But instead I'm going to struggle and try and get this screen in between my boom there and the wall and try and wrap this pillar up. This is not a normal situation here. This is pretty intense rehab. I don't know. Ooh. Looks good. Well, I guess we moved over to the right side here. Normally you go start from the center, support the back, and then down one wall and then the other, or you can just do it in a ring. For the type of rehab it is here, it's probably a little bit more strategic. Make sure I support what I'm worried about, you know, falling down or caving in, or, you know, supporting what needs to be supported first. There, I got my fast and my not too slow. Nicely on display there for you. There's only a couple of steps that you just constantly repeating. You just got to make sure you're always ahead of the machine. I think in this area it was a combination of muddy ground and poor water pressure, so the drifter was mudding up quite a bit, as well as probably the waterhead seal gone and the majority of the water not even going to the drill steel. Now you notice I don't have any guardrails in there on the left side. That's because the way that the rock in the tunnel is shaped, that I can't have the guardrails on because I wouldn't be able to lift my deck up. Can't slide it around without ripping the poles around, and I can't remove the poles once I lift high enough up because the contour of the rock. We're gonna skip the resin install, go straight to a screen install here. We've installed enough resin in this video, I think. So I've already installed my resin here. I'm gonna try and swing it out and hold it into place, and I have the pen in within arm's reach, and while holding the screen with one hand or hooking it onto the boom, I can reach over, grab the pen and boom crowd up and pin the screen up where I want it. There we go. And then I no longer have to hold the screen, and I can have two hands on my rebar, properly put it through the screen, keep the plate above my hand so I can see the dolly, the rebar going into the dolly, and I can let everything go, safely move away, and then I can install the bolt. Give it its mix, give it its time to set, move on to the next bolt. Skip ahead to some drilling. Almost done drilling this hole. No auto return on a lot of these older machines, so you just listen to the end of the hole or watch. You can hear the chattering there, that's the end of the hole. This is more just for a cool angle, I think. So you can see with that last movement there, it drills your hole, and then it does like a half rotation for the carousel, and that's kind of how it keeps its alignment and drills and installs your bolts for you. I'm obviously just one hole off the ground here, probably only 4 feet off the ground. So it looks like I'm having problems with the rocks in my hole there. Probably give it a clean out. Can use the boom for that. And you could actually do it all from the pendant. You just have to rotate back, and then you just do manual feed and rotation on the drill. And you do have those abilities on the pendant. Just no hammer water. A lot of the time it's just pushing the drill steel and with your rotations enough to break up any loose rocks inside your hole, and have everything kind of work out enough to get your resin and your rebar in the hole anyways. Find that grunting and making savage noises a lot of times helps complete your task. So that just about wraps it up for this video. Got some resin and rebar installed, some screen installed, a couple of operating tips. The rest is practice and some hard lessons.